Hi, this is Sandy. In today's video, I'm just going to be sharing a little bit of footage that I took on a trip to Hamble Village and Hamble Marina in Hampshire, and I use the trip as inspiration to fill a sketchbook spread. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about how I've been working in sketchbooks previously and how I'm starting to shake up how I work in sketchbooks and a little bit of previous work. So Hamble Village is a really pretty little village in Hampshire. It's right by the water. It's got a traditional marina, loads of oldie worldy style shops and cafes, and little pubs. It's a really lovely place to spend a few hours if you're in the area. I'd recommend a little trip there if you can. So we just had a little walk around, really. Walked down to the marina, had a look at the scenery, just taking it all in, really. It was a lovely day, really nice and hot and sunny. There's a really cute little pink ferry that you pay a fee and it takes you over to the other side, which is a place called Warsash. You can go over there for a few hours and have a little walk along by the waterside. I think it's a nature reserve. Um, Really lovely open space just to go for a walk for a few hours. Loads and loads of inspiration if you're a photographer or sketcher or painter. It's just a lovely place to spend a few hours, really. So we just spent a bit of time by the water, enjoying the scenery, watching the boats and watching the world go by, really. There was this really lovely looking building. It's the Maritime Art Gallery. And I've been to Hamble a few times, and every time I've been here, it's closed. I've never been in there. It looks really intriguing. Even the outside is just full of stuff like old bottles and tires and maritime type stuff. It just looks really, really intriguing, and I was dying to get in there, but it was not meant to be. I can't find much about it online either. There is a phone number. I might try giving them a call sometime and seeing. So after just having a little mill around, having a bacon sandwich and a little Coke, we headed off back home. So back home, I just thought I'd share how I've been working in sketchbooks previously and documenting trips I've taken and sketching from reference photos and footage from those trips. This is a square-sized Art Creations Royal Talon sketchbook. This is a little sketch in watercolour and colour pencil that I did of one of the buildings in Hamble Village. I did this last year. I like working in this way, a more detailed way, but I find that it takes a long time and it's a lot of effort in sketchbooks. I'm really wanting to loosen up my process a bit more. This is a little sketch I did of the City Mill in Winchester. Winchester is one of my favourite places on earth for inspiration. You've got everything you could ever need there, in my opinion. This next one is also a little sketch of Winchester, a little house by a river in Winchester that I always love looking at. I got bored of this sketch and I didn't finish it. This next sketchbook is they are a bit like the Dilution sketchbooks, but they're like a cheaper alternative. They're stamp books. I can't find this is an A4 size. I can't find this one online anymore, unfortunately. But it's just smooth like cardstock. So when I got back, I just had a little play around with painting the Hamble ferry and a little bit of the scenery, just playing around really using gouache and watercolor. What I'm basically wanting to do is create enough sketches that I can make a series of paintings based on these trips. This is a larger painting on paper that I've done of another location in Winchester. This is just an A3 piece of watercolor paper, really. So I want to start getting out of sketchbooks, spending less time in sketchbooks, being really expressive in sketchbooks, and then spending more time on paper pieces so I can create a body of work. This is a bigger version taken from my sketchbook and onto an A3 sheet of paper. Now, I'm not really happy with this so far. I've got bored with it. I was being way too fussy about it, trying to render every little brick, and it's just not how I want to present my work. So I've stopped this in process, and I'm just getting back into my sketchbooks and thinking about how to be a bit more expressive and creating how I want to create and how I want my work to come across. So bearing that in mind, this is my latest sketchbook. It's an A5 CY, it's a Brighton sketchbook, and I've started to work on pre-prepared backgrounds, putting down old paint that I need to get rid of, or using the jelly plate and putting it on there just as a background to work on. And I'm finding that's a real good technique for loosening up my work. Now, this is the A5 version of the A4 sketchbook that I was using previously. And this is a boat that I painted from a trip to Portsmouth. I used a bit of a pre-prepared background there underneath. It's the charcoal sticks from Derwent, and I just smushed a load of that on and painted over the painting of a boat from a reference photo I took. And I like that one a bit more. It's getting a bit more playful. This is a painting that I did of my son looking over the harbour at Portsmouth. It's a very playful piece. The boat is cracking me up because it's such a weird proportion. It's so tiny, but it's quite a nice, it just reminds me of the day. So I quite like it. This is another more expressive piece that I've done. It's the background has got some acrylic ink that I used a jelly plate and just put the page directly on top of that. This is another one using the same technique, and I'm liking these, how they look and how they feel to create a lot more. This was one that I did of a house in Ventnor on the Isle of Wight. It was just this grand old house. It was incredible. It was like pink and purple and just really fun colours. And I really like how this felt to create and how it looks for sketchbook work. It's a lot quicker, so I was really happy with progress on this one. This is a boat painting I recently did in Christchurch in the UK, another harbour town. This was acrylic wash. I really enjoyed painting this one. I painted it a lot quicker, just not worried about trying to be perfect, just loosening up really. So I'm just going to show you in my C. White's A5 sketchbook how I pre-prepare pages for a sketchbook spread just to add some texture and interest and just create a really fun and loose sketchbook spread of the Hamble ferry. So I started and I just used some old watercolour that was left on my palette and mixed it all together, and it made this kind of like sandy kind of brown colour. And I just put a load of water with it and just kind of put that on the page with a normal just brush, and so that's given a really light first layer. I've now got some acrylic inks. I have a variety of colours. So I start with like a teal, a light teal colour, and really water it down, and I'm using a fan brush just to create some wavy and thin textures. Just going over it really thinly, really. I don't want it to be too overpowering. I just want it to be a light base to work on top of, really. Then I also grab Salo Blue ink. They're acrylic inks by Montmartre, and I just go over in the same way, just very loosely, very lightly and gesturally, and just it's really just to have something to work on, just to help me loosen up, and it just gives some nice textures and things like that to work on top of. So I've let those dry, and I'm going to now go in. I've got some Distress Oxide spray by Tim Holtz. It's called Broken China. It's a water reactive dye and pigment ink. And I'm just going in and spritzing a thin layer over the top just to create some texture. And I thought that it might, just be a fun way to represent water and splashes and things like that. So that's all dried, and as you can see, it just gives you an interesting textural background to work on. Really takes the pressure off if you get that fear of a blank page. I also feel like you feel looser and more free to be more expressive with your creation as well. And for me, what I'm trying to do this year is branch out and break out of spending all my time in my sketchbooks. I want to start using my sketchbook as a process tool, um, finding out the materials I enjoy using the most and the process that I enjoy the most, and then getting ideas down onto bigger sheets of paper. And then that's where I'd like to be spending more time. Um, I'm trying to start using my sketchbook as, just a place to get down my ideas and be free and loose. So that's what I'm aiming for here. I've just done a really bare bones, quick little sketch of the ferry and boats, and it will probably evolve from there. And I just want to start trusting the process more and correcting mistakes as I go, because that's where you get your confidence from, right? It's learning that you can make things better as you go and not just getting stuck in that perfection and trying to get a perfect drawing down, and then you're scared to go in and do details because you don't know if you're going to mess it up or not. I think my approach at the moment is be as loose as possible at the start, be as expressive as you can, and then start to hone it in a bit more during the process. And it's just a more freeing way to work. So at this stage, I was just wanting to test out some colours to use for some of the details on the boats. I pulled out some blues that I like the look of from my Caran d'Ache pencils. I just did a few swatches on the page. I really enjoyed kind of using the page more as just like a place to really experiment and just test out ideas. In the end, I went for cobalt blue and Prussian blue, and then I just went in and added some further details. So at this point, I'm just now trying to add a bit more depth to the water area and bring that out a bit more. I use various brushes and my fingers with some more acrylic ink, a bit more saturated this time, and try and add a bit more depth in that area. Once this dries, I can then add even more texture and depth, maybe going in with some acrylic paint or heavier bodied material, acrylic paint, maybe oil pastels, and just really experimenting with textures and movement and things like that. This was just a quick, idea of how to get started with loose and expressive painting, and how to start with pre-prepared pages. Really, this is in no way finished, or oh, this is a great piece of art that I've just finished. It's just I wanted a more loose and free way of creating from the things that inspire me and just to create more. I find that going in loose and then adjusting as you go is working well for me, and I just wanted to share that. I'd love to hear how other people approach this in their sketchbooks, what works. Let me know, that would be really interesting to hear. I decided to leave the sky white for now because I really enjoy the texture of the underpainting and I like having a bit of space for things to breathe. So that's about it from me. I hope some of this was helpful and I hope you enjoyed seeing that bit of footage from Hamble Marina. Thank you very much for watching and hope to catch you soon. Thank you. Bye.